Good morning. Welcome to today's class. My name is Jon Witt, and this is typically a Hatha yoga class, but I'll be using the wall and the chair to help with preventative back care. So with someone with lower back pain, specifically like a bulging disc or some complications in the lumbar, I usually don't use forward bending. It depends. Sometimes I do, but often eliminating forward bending can be a great way of getting practice going. So this is a good practice for anyone, and hopefully you'll never ever have back pain, lower back pain. But this is a sequence that you could use if that was, if you were to have some problems in the lower back. This is a great sequence for that. So I'm using a chair, I'm going to be using the wall, and then at the very end I'll use the floor. So if I was teaching a class and people had back pain, I certainly wouldn't be getting them up and moving them down, which is a typical yoga class, which is great if you're healthy, but if you're struggling, like I said, in your lower back, that is something that I really stay away from. So if this class is helping you, I'm so happy that it is. And if you'd like to make a donation, you can donate to my Venmo account or my PayPal account. They're both under Jon Witt Yoga. And if you don't use either of those platforms, you could message me and we can set up something else where you could send me a check, or you could, I live in the New York area. You could Zelle me if you use Chase Bank. So I have a class tomorrow, and that's from 9 to 10, and that's on Zoom. So you would register through my website, which is jonwittyoga.com, and you can find out more about me on the website. So to start, I'm just going to be starting in a standing position. So when you're standing, typically when the feet are wider apart, it's a little bit easier to stand. So just kind of move the weight around because of the shape of the foot. You have obviously better balance in the front of the foot than you do in the heel. So a lot of times people, specifically with back pain, their weight's forward. Their weight's too much forward. So in later stages of life, either your hips are going to be too far forward in space, or your hips are going to be kind of back behind you and you're going to be kind of in a rounded position. So I'm just giving you a sense of how you hold your weight in your feet, and then when you're whatever you're looking at, you're obviously probably looking at your phone or your television, is that you want to kind of see how your body is organized in space, especially when you're really stressed. So I'm just kind of getting a sense that I can be more symmetrical to any wall, right, or any object. So if you kind of see that you have a blind spot, that can contribute to why you have some pain in your back. So I'm just going to hook my thumbs behind my back, and I'm going to come up onto the toes. I'm going to lift the heels, and then I'm going to slowly lower my heels down, and then I'm going to bring myself back up. So if you struggle with balance, it's either your head's too far forward, your hips are too far forward, right, something like that. And then you can slowly lower the heels, and then you can bring yourself back up. If you prefer a static hold, that has its place. Just notice what the heels do. Do they fall in? Do they fall out? Slowly lowering the heels, and then bringing yourself back up. And then you can slowly lower, and we'll come back up again. And then when you're up, if you can, just turn your head just a quarter of the way. And then if you could, turn your head to the side, not that that's so important, and then turn the head to center, and then turn the head over to the left, and then bringing the head back into the middle, and then lowering the heels, and you can relax the arms. So what I'm going to do is stretch out your feet a little bit. So I'm being on my big toe, just my big toe, and as my big toe is underneath me, I'm not applying weight, it's just the weight of the body that's resting into the big toe. And it might take some time to tuck it underneath. Just a few breaths here. Could be more, but just so that we can fit in more within the hour that we have together. I'm just doing it for about 30 seconds. So I'm untucking the toe, and then I'm going to come back to bringing now the left side or the opposing side. So whichever side you start with really doesn't matter. But you'll see that this is flexion of the toe. So it can kind of it loses its dexterity. So this is a good way to kind of mobilize the joint. And take a couple deep breaths. And if it's like unbearable in one foot, you could use your hands to do this, right? We could sit in the chair and do it. And then I'm gonna undo that. And then I'm just gonna lift the toes off the floor. And then lower. And then lift. And then lower. And then lift up again. So now I'm gonna bring all of my toes, my second, third, fourth, and my fifth toe underneath. And then just my big toe is down on the ground, on the floor. It can be tricky to do, and it's okay if all the toes aren't underneath you, but over time they can, right? And then you can undo that, and then I'm gonna bring toes on the left foot. For me, again, it could be your right side. Just kind of measure the tension. Not that it's bad, but you might be like, wow, that's interesting. One side's really tight for myself. Take a couple deep breaths here. Right. And then you can untuck the toes and then just kind of roll into the outside of the feet. Be really careful with this. So I'm just kind of rolling into my right foot, and then I'm rolling into my left. I'm gonna roll into my right side. And then I'm going to roll into my left. Okay. And then I'm going to come back into just having my arms forward just to change the angle a little bit. I'm going to take the arms forward. I'm just going to come into a quarter squat. And then you can bring yourself back up. You could hold it statically too. So I'm just coming down. Right, it doesn't have to be this level. You can watch the knees, see if they fall in or not. You can bring yourself back up. And then when you bend the knees, what I would look for is what's stopping you from, not that we have to squat lower, we don't, but just kind of see what really has a lot of stress. So let's say you had a lot of stress in the knee, it's probably coming from the lack of dexterity in the feet. So I'm taking the arms forward, pulling the hips back, coming back up. I've mentioned this before in other classes, you can get your legs to be sufficiently strong, whether they be straight or just quarter bends. Like partial range of motions can be really good. And then you can bring yourself back up. And then when you come up, I'm going to use the wall here if you need it to stretch out the quadriceps. So if I do need a wall, I'm holding the wall. I could have a profile, right? You just need support. And before we stretch out the leg, I'm going to bring the leg into the body. I'm going to pull it up and in. Now I'm using my thumb and my pinky as a measure. So I want to keep it up and in by using the strength of your hamstring. So a lot of times people, especially within yoga, it's just passive flexibility. So I want to be able to keep the leg up from just the strength of my leg. So I'm going to take it up and say you can't touch this, like you can't, say you need more, you could put a yoga block between your heel and your bum, and you could pull it in. And this is, again, there's nothing wrong with passive flexibility, which we're going to do next eventually, but this is to really get your hamstring stronger. And if it cramps up, it's really a sign of weakness, so it's not a bad thing. So I'm going to go to the wall now, and I'm going to have my hips at the wall. I'm going to measure my feet about 2 feet. I'm not a very tall person. I'm under 6 feet tall. My elbows are back into the wall. My shoulders are back to the wall. And what you can do is just make sure that you're not in socks, right? If your floor is slippery, use your yoga mat, right? But you want to be pulling everything back into the wall that's not touching. So if I had kyphosis, right, rounding to the shoulders, it's okay that the head doesn't come back as far, but over time, we we can get the head back better for yourself, which will help. As time goes on, as the head moves too far forward, it's really going to affect the way that you balance. Often people that I've worked with over the years, not often, but from time to time, people will tell me that they've fallen, and a lot of it again is really because their posture is a little bit it's not as well as it could be. So my shoulders are back. I've probably been here longer than a minute, so maybe it came out already. So I'm going to come back up, and then when I come back up, just going to move my feet back to the wall. Now the feet don't have to touch the wall here, but I want to organize my torso, my pelvis, and my upper body to the wall. So this is a really simple thing to do. So especially if you struggle with your balance, the floor is a great tool. The wall is much easier than the floor. So this is a good starting point for people. I'm going to take my knuckles on the side of my head, and I'm pulling my elbows back, and this could be, many different positions of the arms, but I'm just having the arms back just as a reference, and then I'm going to take the elbows forward, and then I'm going to pull the elbows back in space, and then I'm going to bring them forward, which will help relax the shoulders, and then pulling them back. You can keep your belly and your ribs in. So with poor posture, a lot of it is lack of strength in the abdomen. So you can bring the elbows in, and then you can pull the elbows back. And we're just going to hold this for 3 breaths. So push through the feet, keep the head back, keep the elbows back. And maybe it's irritating. You just take the arms down, right? And then take the elbows forward, and you can bring the arms down, and you can just relax for a couple of breaths. So again, the feet aren't completely at the wall, but your butt is. So however big your butt is where the heels would measure in terms of how you're standing. So just come away from the wall, and then you're going to use the wall again, but rather than pulling the leg up like we did earlier, we're just going to do a passive stretch. So I'm going to pull the left leg up. Now again, if that was better, like you could stay active. And then if I want more of a stretch in the leg, I can holding the shin is much easier than holding the foot. So if you do have the flexibility, go ahead, grab the foot. But if you don't have the flexibility, be patient. It's okay to grab the shin. And my leg could be on a chair. So some people I work with, it's just not possible for them yet to take the leg up. So it could be on a chair. So take a few deep breaths here. You'll notice that the knee kind of carries out for you because of lack of flexibility. So what we want to do is eventually keep the knee more to the midline of the body, just so that you're not compensating to just get the foot or to get the shin, right? And then you can bring that down. And then as you bring it down, I'm just going to hold my right side. Again, it could be, say the first technique worked really well for you, like put a block there. Now if I'm actively pulling up like I did earlier, you could hold it for 2-3 seconds, something like that, and then bring it down, and then you could pull it up again. So I'm not holding the leg in that technique, but if it's really just passive flexibility that you need, you can hold the shin or hold the foot, and you'll see, like for people, the knee is kind of falling out to the side. Over time we can keep it in, but the more you bring it in, the more stressful it can be on the knee for people. So it doesn't have to be like that. So take a couple deep breaths, breathe in, breathe out. This is really not practiced enough for people, especially if you sit a lot. And then bring the right foot down, and then as you bring the right foot down, we're going to go back to the wall with your back, and then just the different variations just to stress out the quads a bit more. So as I'm here, I'm going to lift the heels of my feet off the floor. So the heels are lifting, and then it's more quad dominant. So if someone had really lack of dorsiflexion, this can be a good option. And then you could put something underneath their heels as well. Say you're a teacher, so you can pull the shoulders back, head is back, muscles above the knees are working. So if you have problems going up and down stairs, a big part of it is getting the hamstrings and quadriceps stronger, but a lot has to do pertaining to the feet and the ankles. So take a couple deep breaths. Maybe you're already out, right? And then lower the heels and bring yourself back up. And then when you come back up, you're gonna go back again to stretching out the quads one more time. Again, if you're doing like a meditation or pranayama, right, you just sit in virasana, which is great, but there's a lot of in between that type of experience and a general yoga experience, which is, unless you're doing like more of an Iyengar specific practice, which is great, then you'll get the exposure into the legs that you really ultimately need. So just a few reps. I'm going to take my left leg up. I'm going to pull the left leg up and in. As it gets easier, you can reduce the space between the foot and the bum. So I have pretty good flexibility with this. So I'm not so concerned with how much I can take the foot up. Just trying to get my hamstring stronger, and then bring it down, and then take it up. So I'm taking it up for a few seconds. I held it longer the first time, and then I'll bring it down. You can always shake it out too, right? Then take it up, because it will cramp up. And then you can bring it down. So take the right leg up, pull it into your butt, and then bring it down. Take it back up, bring it down, take it back up. And then we're going to stay on this side and just hold the foot or the shin. Try to lift yourself up in space. So a good thing to think about is like, what if you're on your back doing this? This is, not that you have to do that, but that's a really heavy, loaded position. And you have to have quite a bit of flexibility to do that. So this is obviously a much easier version. Again, my foot could be on a chair. Take 2 deep breaths. And then you can bring the right foot down, and then you can take the left leg up. Pull it in for a couple seconds just to get it strong. And then hold either the foot or the shin and just kind of see, right, is your head more forward than your torso? So because we were up against the wall for a few techniques, just think that the body is still resting up against the wall. So imagine that the wall is behind you. Take a couple deep breaths. And then you can bring the left foot down. As you bring the left foot down, I'm just going to move a little bit, but just a different position just to get into the inner thighs. So I'm away from the wall now. I'm going to turn the feet out. And with the feet turned out, I'm going to bend the knees. And just think of stages. So I'm just bending a little bit. And what most people need is a widening of the thighs, a widening of the legs. And that'll help get into this position. So I'm just going to take the arm forward. My thumbs are up. I'm just going to rotate from my shoulders. So I'm going to rotate my thumbs down and in. And try not to do it from your hands or from your forearms. Move more from your shoulders. Be more specific in the shoulders. And then rotate the thumbs up. And then rotate the thumbs back. Now you can do this in a chair. You can sit in a chair, take your legs out. That's very good. And then you're going to rotate the thumbs down and in. Right. Move the arms out wider here. And then rotate the thumbs up and back. And it wouldn't be bad if you're like, whoa, my legs, I need to come out, right? You just come out, it's kind of the old classic yoga technique is just bear with it, control your mind, be still. But I think it's perfectly healthy to move. You need that. And then bringing yourself back up. And then as you come up, just step the feet back into a neutral stance. And as you're in a neutral stance, just going to do a bit of a side bend. So I'm going to go to the left, which is complementing my right side. So the left side's getting shorter and the right side is getting longer, right? We're trying to get into the QL musculature around the rib cage. You can let the head relax down. You can bring yourself up, and then you can side bend to the right. So this could be anywhere from 10, if you have some experience, it could be, longer than that, 60 seconds. But really, really great to kind of see the differences within the spine and the torso as you side bend. So again, the head can relax. I'm just picking up through the left side here. I like these because they're much easier to comprehend than say like a triangle or a side angle pose. Not that those are bad positions, those are excellent positions, but you can bring yourself back up. And then when you come up, take the arms overhead and just bend the knees a bit. So we did some stuff for your feet, we were at the wall. All these things should help in getting you into more of a classic Utkatasana. Classical Utkatasana is really, really good for the lower back because it's traction here. So come back up to straight legs and then come up onto the toes with the heels off the floor. Take 2 more breaths. And then you can bring the arms down and you can slowly, slowly lower the heels, right? And then I'm just to give you a profile, so I'm gonna turn, a big part is educating the pelvis. So I'm gonna have my butt stick out and then I'm gonna bring my tailbone down and in. So I'm doing this just with my hands so that you have more of a visual. You don't have to have your hands here if you don't want them, but it could be helpful in you. So think of your pelvis as like a pitcher of water. You're pouring the pitcher of water forward. And then if I keep the pelvis level, then the water won't spill forward. And it's really good for anyone. So sticking the butt out, if you had a surgery or something like that, or something a little bit more acute, I keep these really minimal. I wouldn't do a lot of them. I'm sticking it out. I'm not doing so many here. My knees are bent. If I need them, it's kind of nice with the knees bent because then you can articulate a little bit more through the pelvis. So if I don't have any problems, I can really work on driving the tailbone down. So I'm going to stick my butt out and then I'm going to bring the tailbone down and in, right? And even if you had like a kyphosis of the lumbar, this could be really helpful to stretch it out. So like if I had a serious position, it's kind of like, well, no, you shouldn't do that. But at some point, say you were diagnosed many years ago, I think it's worth trying. And then obviously you want to. I was working with you more specifically, I would know very well what not to use. And any good teacher would do that as well. So stick the butt out and then bring the tailbone down and in. Right. And then we're gonna go back to the side bend. So as my arms are here, I'm gonna side bend to the left. So with stenosis, some general guidelines, right? If you've been diagnosed with something, make your yoga really almost like a bit lazy or not even like going for range. Make it, get yourself healthy again before you really take yourself into a greater range of motion. Because people, bring yourself up, go to the right side. So people often, they'll just, I'm lengthening the left side, my right side is shorter. A lot of times people view greater range of motion as being healthier, and sometimes it's not the case. So I'm never just going all out. I'm okay with whatever range of motion. I'm always keeping myself at a healthy range, just so that I'm not injuring myself. and then you can bring yourself back up. And then when you come up, go back to having the feet out wide. Just gonna do one more horse stance. So the feet are out, I'm gonna take the arms out, I'm gonna turn the thumbs back. And say horse stance doesn't work for you, it could very well be warrior two. Warrior two is gonna be much easier on your back than say warrior one. Not to say that you shouldn't do warrior one, or a high lunge, but these lateral opening positions is a easier way, right? It's easier, but remember when we were tucking the tailbone down in the pelvis motions? So we're doing that here. And just to make it more specific, so I'm not, just so that you can focus on that, is lift through the pubis, and you'll feel more opening within the inner thighs and the hips. And then take yourself back up. And then when you come back up, just step the feet back in, just a neutral stance. And I'm just gonna walk you around a little bit. This is something that I do when I work with people privately. When you're doing this kind of specific stuff, walking is, a good thing to do as a counter. So especially with people that really struggle in moving, that's something that I teach people, is how to walk better. So just step at the back end of your mat. And you could do circles too, right? Around your apartment. So just walking forward, and then I'm gonna be walking back. So be careful as you walk back. So just walking back. If you have a long hallway, then you can use your hands on the wall. But I'm walking forward, and then I'm gonna walk back, just in space. If you have a slight hill somewhere near you, in your neighborhood, as you get comfortable with this, you can walk up the hill, and that's really, really good for posture, very good for your back. I'm gonna walk forward again. And then as you're walking back in space, I'm stepping back with the toes, and then I'm following up with the heel, and then back. I'm just gonna do it one more time. So I'm walking forward, and then I'm walking back. And this will, say someone really has a forward position, this will help pull them back so that they're more upright. So just one more time, we're gonna go to the wall. Just to stretch out the arms, stretch out your back, your shoulders. So there's many stages to this. Taking the arms up the wall. As I take my arms up, I could look up towards the hands. So if I'm leaning into the wall, it's okay, but let's say you do have some stuff going on in your lower back, stay away from the wall. So don't go to the wall, don't fall into the wall. You could come up on the toes, right? Some more active variation. Both are good, but just kind of see which hand you favor in looking to, and then you can really start to get more balance by looking to the opposing hand. Take one more deep breath. And then you can slowly lower the heels. And then as you lower the heels, I'm just gonna step the left foot back and have the left heel into the floor. So this, especially if you have really tight calf muscles, I'm just working that because this is one thing that we haven't worked. So I'm just gonna straighten out through the right leg, and then I'm gonna bend the right knee. We can emphasize on each leg. So depending on how you do this, focusing more on my back leg and doing this is just a little easier for people to learn and understand. So then I'm straightening out through the right leg, and then I'm gonna bend the right knee, just in an upright position. Take a couple deep breaths. And I'm gonna straighten out through the right leg, and then I'm gonna bend the knee. So I'm in the heel, I'm in the calcaneus of the left foot. And then I'm gonna move my right foot back just a bit, and then I'm gonna step the left foot forward, and then the right foot is back. So some people will have an elevated heel, so you could fill the gap with anything. It could be a book, could be a blanket, could be a dense or a soft pillow. So a dense pillow is better to start with, and then something softer is good because then you can go beyond that range. So I'm just going to straighten out through the left leg, And then I'm going to bend the left knee. Straighten out. And then I'm going to bend the left knee. So take 3 deep breaths. Right. And then I'm going to step the right foot forward. I'm going to take the arms at the wall again. So, I'm not forward bending, but, there's things you could be doing if you prefer that, right? So come up on the toes, extend through the arms. I'm a big believer in hanging from objects like bars or molding, stuff like that. Really, really good for the shoulders. But let's say it's not so good for the shoulders here. Take the hands a little wider, and that'll be easier for you. Again, try not to fall into the wall, just for the sake of your understanding of how to use the strength of your front body, so that you're not using your lower back to just be here. Then slowly lower the heels, and then you can lower the arms. And then I'm gonna do another side bend. So just with the wall, in case you want a little bit more leverage. The wall is good, so I'm gonna turn back to the wall with my back. And then I'm just gonna go a little bit to the left. My head doesn't have to be at the wall, but there's definitely gonna be more leverage here. And if it's too much, just go away from the wall. So get stronger on the left side, get more spacious on the right, and then bring yourself back up. And then side bend to the right, and then as you side bend to the right, you're just getting more and more space through the left side. So take a couple deep breaths, use your feet, lift your left side, and then bring yourself back up. And then as you come up, just a neutral position. So just stand, take a few deep breaths, and then have your right hand at the wall, very similar to what we, in yoga, a side plank. My right hand's at the wall, and then I'm just going to move my head away from my right shoulder. Just to get more exposure into the trapezius and musculature that surrounds the shoulder girdle. As I'm letting my head relax, I may want to bring it up from time to time. And then take the head up, and then you can bring the left hand to the wall, and then the right head is moving away from the left hand. So when the fingers point straight up towards the ceiling, you're going to get a natural external rotation in the shoulder. So if you look at yourself, in a mirror with that you can see fully the shoulder, you'll see that it's forward. But even if you're in a t-shirt, you'll see that one shoulder is more forward or down, and you'll see more wrinkles in your clothing. So your clothing will tell you exactly what is out of place. It's just look at the clothing, especially if it's baggy or tight. You can see so much from just looking at your clothing. And then lift your head, and then you can bring your left arm down. So I'm going to go into the chair. First, rather than doing the chair, I'm going to do it in a standing position. So when I'm in the chair, and I'm going to do some side bending and twisting a little bit, but not grabbing the chair is probably going to be an easier twist for you. So I just want you to have that. I'm just going to turn over my left shoulder and just kind of twist some of the way. Don't go all out. And then as you're twisting to the left, I would just back off rather than just letting my hips carry. This is a common mistake. People just kind of twist, and then until it's bad, right? So just keep your hips squared and don't twist as much, and that'll help. And you can turn forward, and then you can turn your head over your right shoulder, body's turning, pelvis does not have to be perfectly straight, but there's more leverage. And then just think tailbones down. So don't lose the integrity of your feet and your legs as you're twisting. Just twisting. But like I said, when we're using the chair, this might be better. So I'm gonna use the chair now, and then as I'm in my chair here, I'm gonna do some hip opening a bit. So I'm taking my left leg up, crossing my left leg over my right. So I'm just crossing it over. And this might be all that you need, just this. But I'm gonna pull the leg up into my upper body, and just enough so that I feel a stretch in my hip and in my glute. And if it was just unbearable, it could be pulses, right? I could release that or just come out of it a little bit, and then I could come up, right? Not that you couldn't be in a static position, you know, static can work as well, so it really depends. So take a couple deep breaths here. Right. And then I'm gonna bring the left leg down, and then I'm gonna cross my right leg over my left. And it's just, when it's on this angle, which is very similar to a classic yoga pose, Ardha Matsyendrasana, is that it's a little bit more specific in the glutes and the piriformis. So I'm pulling the leg up and in. And we'll do a couple different, we're gonna do another variation, just so that you have some variety, because sometimes you may need only one variation, but you might see that both will help you. So take a couple deep breaths. And then I'm gonna bring my right leg down. And then as I'm bringing my right leg down, I'm gonna take my left leg up, and then my left shin is on top of my right knee. So as it's up here, you could just sit here. Like I have decent flexibility in my hips, but I still feel a stretch through here. But you know, for the sake of the video, because I'm gonna label it as back hairs, probably wouldn't want to come forward if you're experiencing back hair. But if you had back pain in the past, this is more preventative, you could certainly come forward a little bit. So I'm going to angle my pelvis forward, and then I'm just coming forward with my torso however far I need to, and then that just adds more leverage here. What you can also do is you can just bring yourself back up so that you're more neutral, just so that you're not holding that too long. Is think that the left leg is lifting up into the upper body. You could use your hands just to kind of give you an assist, but you want to use more leg strength and hip strength to lift it. It could certainly come up. I'm not doing that because people get too caught up in just getting it up and not really understanding how to lift it, and that's what's way more important. So you can bring the left leg down. As you bring the left leg down, you can take the right leg up. And I'm doing it, or did it, as an example. You don't have to use your hands. So as your hips get more flexible, then you could not use your hands. So when it's up in this position, just try to pull it up and in. So if you're a person that's not coming forward, what you can do is you can pull it in for 3-5 seconds, and then just let it relax, and then you can pull it up and in. But if you're a person that is okay and willing, just tip forward a little bit with the torso. And I know it doesn't, I could certainly come more forward, but just you really don't need that. You can, and the reason you'd want to do that is that there's more leverage in the hip, and then it's starting to stretch out your back more. So just bring yourself back up and just pull it up and in. And then you can bring the right leg down. And we're going to do that one more time, but let's say the first variation was better for you. So that was this position. You could go back to that, but I'm going to go back, but I'm going to try to lift the left leg up without my hands. And then I'm going to bring the left leg down, right? And then now use your hand a little bit if you need it, right? You could use your hands to assist you. Pull it up, and then take it up. So it's good to use the hands however much you need to. And then as you're forward here, just use your index finger to separate your toes. Just separate just move your index finger in between the toes. Right? You could stretch out the foot. There's a lot of different things we could do here. But I'm just gonna come forward a little bit. As I come forward, I still want the left leg to lift up into me. Like I wanna pull it up, and then that'll target more the outside of the hip. So take one more breath. And again, maybe you're upright the whole time. But just kind of notice often with people, they'll just only cross the one leg. And then like I fold my left leg in more often when I sit cross-legged than my right. So my left side is actually more flexible in some ways. So lift the left leg up if you can with minimal effort in the hands. And then, hold, and then bring it down. And then we're gonna take the right leg up. As you take the right leg up, again, you could hold, if I couldn't hold my foot, right? You can hold your knee and still do this. You can hold the hamstring and then taking it up. And then as you take it up, right, it's just in this external rotation. So I'm just making the foot wrinkle free. So if my foot's really distorted, like if I, in martial arts, like leg locks and stuff like that, they'll twist the foot and that's affecting the knee. So when people aren't really keeping good integrity with the feet, it's often the knee really starts to, affect someone. So I'm coming forward a little bit with my upper body. I'm trying to lift the leg into the torso, and then that's targeting more of the outside of the hip. This is really, really, again, basic stuff, but you'll find yourself getting really, really hot if you're tight. Like you might be sweating just from the most simple things. Not that that's the goal, but you'll really develop more of a heat within yourself. And then bring yourself up, and then when you come up, hold the leg, support the knee if it needs it. If you have a problematic knee, support the knee, and then take it up. But again, use the strength, and then it's back down. So I'm going to do a simple side bend. So depending on what kind of chair you are, you could be back into the chair with your hips, but you could also be more forward. So it really depends. I'm going to slide my left hand down. Just because for the sake of this chair, I'm back, so I'm sliding it down the back end. And don't go as far as you can. I'm going to take the right hand behind the head, and then I'm just in this, side angle position. Right? But the legs could be much wider. I know some people can't do that. That's why I'm doing it closed. And then bring yourself up, and then you can have the right hand down, either the front leg of the chair or the side. You could be in your sofa and do it, or your bed. And then just have the arm down, because that might be way better. But if you want to try having your hand behind your head, you can lean your head back in space. It just adds a different kind of stretch, more around the shoulders, and into the upper back. And then take the left arm up to the left, and then bring yourself back up. So I'm going to do one twist. So I take my legs to one side of the chair and just turn. Don't grab the backrest just yet. Just twist. You could hold the thigh, right? But if you are grabbing the backrest, you can hold the backrest and I'm not really pulling at all. I'm just using my hands to get more elevation. Not elevating the shoulders, I'm just trying to elevate the spine. And then as I'm twisting here, it's really not about depth, in my opinion, ever, but maybe you are going further. But again, I would always be on the, you don't really have to get incredibly flexible to have a better life. And then you can turn forward, and as you turn forward, you're going to bring your legs over to the opposing side, and then as you're off to the opposing side, whether it's the right or the left, as I'm just twisting towards the backrest. So for me, that's my right side. For you, it could be your left. And you want to be able to twist very well without force, right? But you may need. So when my hands are on my backrest, it's helping me to lift up more. I'm in a fuller extension. You can push down through the feet a bit, and then that'll help rise you up. But again, I'm never really concerned with like just wrench your back out approach. That's really not my thing. Some people teach it like that. So try to lift up away from the seat of the chair, and then you can turn forward, and but like if you didn't have back pain, coming forward. So I'm just going to do that just so that you have something in terms of a forward bend. So I'm tipping forward with my pelvis. Again, those of you that have like more like osteoporosis, then you're not folding forward. Then I'm sliding the hands on the inside of the legs. I'm just letting my head relax. So if you were in happy baby, right, this is the same position. So just let the head relax down. Knees could fit inside of the armpits. Take 5 deep breaths here. There's a lot of leverage here because the weight of your lower body's in the chair. And I would never say it's like, oh, this feels so good. I wouldn't start out with like 2 minutes or more because you could hurt yourself. You have experience, then of course you could do it longer. So bring yourself to a neutral position, a flat back, and then have your hands on your knees, and then lift yourself back up, and then you just back up into an upright position. So just take a few deep breaths. If you're not lightheaded, you're not dizzy, you can look over the left shoulder. You can look over the right. And you can look back to center. I'm going to look up. And then I'm just going to look forward. So I'm going to move the chair off to the side. I'm going to do one shoulder opening for the shoulders. I didn't do it at the wall, but you could use the wall if you can't get down on your knees. You could use a countertop if you don't want to be on your knees. But just because I don't have a countertop, I'm going to be on my knees. But like if you have an island or any kitchen, you put your elbows on that, and then you just use one yoga block. So I'm just taking my chair just to here, and then I'll have the block in between my hands. So you're creating a 90-degree angle. The butcher block stretch gets into the tricep and the lats, which can be really, really tight, especially for men. But remember the posterior tilt we were in when we were standing? You're trying to use that again. So just this could be a lot for someone, really. If someone's very tight, you could hold the chair and move the hips back. But I'm gonna bring my elbows to the chair, and I'm holding the block. And then as I hold the block, just squeezing into the block with my hands, right? Just hugging in. And then as I hug in, I'm gonna get a good rotation through the shoulders. So I'm hugging in with my index fingers, my knuckles. I'm getting a good rotation through the shoulders, and then I'm trying to keep the belly and the ribs in, which you need for like inversions, whether it be a handstand or a headstand, you need that. So take 2 deep breaths, and you'll see very well that one shoulder is just tighter, and over time, that side will get better. Then bring the block just forward a little bit and walk the knees forward. And then as you walk the knees forward, you can lose the block, or actually we'll use the block again, but I'm going to move the chair off to the side so that you guys can see better. Is I'm going to sit on the block on my second position. So just because we did quite a bit of knee flexion, is maybe you can see the difference here. So I'm going to sit on the second level of my block, and then as I'm on the second level, try to squeeze the feet into the block just so that your feet aren't sickling out. It's common. So you're just hugging in. And then as you hug in, you can take the hands on top of the thighs and just pull the hands back. You're never really pulling in yoga, and that's kind of the big kind of complaint with people. It's one of the things that's missing. Yoga is very, very, very good, but depending on how coordinated you want to be or athletic you want to be, it certainly is missing some things. But it's a great practice. But I believe in many forms of practice. Like you should be strength training on some level at least a couple times a week if you're not already. So you're sliding back, and that could be just yoga, but the focus is getting stronger. Like you're really pushing your limits, so to speak. But the trap is with people, and not that it's so bad, but is people fall in love with just resting. And then that's obviously not good for your heart, and it's not good for your skeletal system. So you can slide the hands forward, and then I'm going to slide the hands back. Right, and then I'm going to just bring the hands out. So a higher level is much easier, but if you do want to try sitting lower, I'm going to sit lower, and if that's too much for you, then it's okay that you stay on the 2 blocks or the higher level of the 1 block. I'm going to pull the skin back on my knees. That makes it easier and better. Take a couple deep breaths. If you have flat feet, this is really obviously very good for you. If you're a person that had high arches, the toe stand type of techniques are better. So if I'm on my toes, then I sit back, maybe I can't sit all the way back, then I'm all the way on the heels. But you could have something in between, like a towel or a yoga mat rolled up. It's good. And then I'm going to come off the feet. And then as I come off the feet, I'm going to lie back on my back. You'll have a block with you. I'm just going to do some things for strengthening your abdomen. I'll give you the option of resting, and then we'll call it a practice for today. So lie back on your back. Once you're on your back, I'm not going to do a lot of these, but very good for especially a posterior tilt in the pelvis. So, or an anterior tilt. So once my legs are here, just going to take my feet off the floor, and I'm going to bring my lower back in the floor. But what I'm going to do is just extend my right leg forward. So this is a more basic version. It's really good. This is, a great way. And then I'm going to take my right leg back into the neutral position. I'm going to take the left leg forward in space. My lower back is being drawn to the floor here. And that's the easy version. So you can keep doing that. But I'm going to take the arms here, and then I'm going to take my right arm overhead and my left leg forward. So these are called dead bugs. And then as you're here, I'm squeezing in. I'm going to take the hands up over the shoulders, the knees over the hips. Then left arm comes overhead, and the right leg comes forward. Keep the belly, keep the ribs in. And bring the arms up, the legs up, bring the right arm overhead and the left leg forward. So bring it in, overhead. And then bring the arms up. Left arm comes overhead and the right leg is forward. A couple deep breaths. Keep the ribs in, and then bring the arms over the shoulders and the knees over the hips, and then bring the feet down. And you could stay here. I'm going to do a bridge, and you're welcome to do a bridge with a block. With lower back, you may want to limit the time of it and the height, but you could also do more passive extension like in a chair. And if that's ever a question, I could always show you that. So my hands are over my elbows. I'm going to lift my hips off the floor, and then as I lift the hips up, pushing down through the heels. Again, with acute, static is probably going to be better than motion. That's been my experience. But if you're feeling pretty good today, I'm going to roll my upper back into the floor. My mid back will come down, and then my low back will come down, and then I'll push through the heels. I'll elevate the pelvis. I'll elevate through the mid of my back, my upper back, into a nice extension. And then I'm going to roll my upper back into the floor. just moving through each and every vertebrae. And it might not move. Some of them may not move, but over time we would like them to move. And then you can just bring the hips down. Now you could stay relaxed in this position, but I'm going to move. Morning practices, sometimes I won't rest, but if you have the time and you want to rest, definitely take the time to rest. I'm going to roll to my left side. I'm going to bring myself back up. I'm going to sit however I need to, so you could sit cross-legged on a higher elevated surface or not. As I'm up, just kind of see how your body is oriented. Feel if you needed anything else. Obviously do those things before you get up. But I hope this class helped you. If you have any questions about this class or any of the classes that I've taught in the past, you can definitely let me know, and I could help you more with that. I teach privately through Zoom because of the situation that we're in. So if you ever needed more specific personal work, you could message me and we could set up a time that I could work with you privately. I also develop programs for people specifically if you're more independent practice, but you want to get beyond your level of practice. There's really great ways. It's just you have to put in the time and the work, and I'm happy to design those for you if that's something that you're interested in, or say you have an injury. Most injuries you can rehabilitate. It's just you have to use the right techniques. So like the video if you like it, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel. Again, I hope this class is helping you with all the other classes that I've taught. Have a beautiful weekend if I don't see you tomorrow in my 10 o'clock class. Namaste. Bye-bye.